Some call to order the Centralina Regional Council Board of Delegates open house. Welcome, everyone. Just in case some delegates missed the first Board of Delegates meeting of the year, I'd like to each delegate to introduce themselves. I guess start things off. So Jay McCosh, Chairman and a council member from the town of Cal.
Jennifer Stepp, councilwoman for the city of Gastonia.
Jim Butler, Town Council, Mineral Springs.
Tommy Law, Commissioner, Mint Hill, Secretary.
Lori Mack, Councilwoman or Alderwoman for Grand Prairie, Lorraine County.
Hi, Sean Rush, Alderman for the town of East Spencer and Executive Board Member.
Alicia Bergsman, Commissioner for Huntersville.
Paulette Blakeney, Town of Marshfield.
Crystal Buholic, Town of Indian Trail.
Jennifer Teague, Town of Harrisburg.
Angela Caraway, Mayor of the Town of Hanfordville.
Patricia Sledge, Town of Spencer.
Autumn
Marjorie
Ryerson,
Molina.
Town of Davidson.
Marjorie Molina, City of Charlotte.
Jane Lingle, Town of Faith.
Andy Langford, Concord.
Ryan Elm, Town of Landis, Alderman.
David Scholl, Mayor Pro Tem of Stallings.
I don't know, we got this table back over there with you, Martha Sue.
Martha Sue Hall, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Albemarle.
Felina Harris, Trauma Town Council.
Jamie Hamill, Village of Meisenheimer, member.
Great. Anybody else online that didn't chime in?
Amelia
Nelson
Stinson with
Wills.
Okay, Nelson's on there.
Yep. Hey guys, Nelson Wills, Town of Cramerton. Good evening.
Amelia Stinson Wesley, Town of Pineville.
I don't know if you hear me, Paulette Blakeney, Town of Marshfield.
All right, well, thanks everybody for coming, especially with the weather the way that it is today, which has been kind of came upon us out of nowhere. But so really thanks for everybody for joining us virtually and especially those guys you're first. You didn't expect this many people for the fall. So now to help us move through the agenda efficiently, be sure to state your name for the record when making a motion a second and speaking, and the meeting is being recorded. So Marissa Claiborne, our board administrator, will be taking attendance if the delegates have arrived. And I know that we are not gonna, we're waiting a little bit more time before we figure out whether we have established a quorum or not, because we're getting closer. Which also means I'm gonna move the consent agenda, which is the only thing we gotta vote on, to possibly the end of the meeting in case we do, we can get enough people. So next, may I please request a moment of silence to honor and remember the 4 brave officers who lost their lives in the line of duty last Monday here in Charlotte. Thank you. Let us take this time that we just had hopefully to reflect on their sacrifice and service they gave to the community. Now we can stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and on a lighter note, I want to acknowledge that it is Public Service Recognition Month. So I'd like for us all to take a moment to show our appreciation for our hardworking Centralina staff. So please join me. So the first item is the consent agenda, but we're gonna do that. So, hopefully we can actually. Right, so let's move along. That's right. Let's move along to the regular business items, which is item number 3, which is going to be the delegate engagement activity. And I'm going to introduce Michelle Mance, who's Centralina's executive director, and the Centralina director to introduce our engagement activity.
You can advance it. How's everybody tonight?
All right.
Safe, got power. Drink, coffee. I'm glad you're here. Does everybody remember everything you learned at the open house, the delegates orientations back earlier in the year? I'm seeing some, okay, so we're gonna test you, right? No, we're gonna have a little fun today. Centralina does a lot of activities, a lot of initiatives and a lot of projects. And so we're gonna do a little fun activity tonight just to help refresh your memory on some of these things so that you and your community can take advantage of what there is to offer. You're also gonna meet some of our directors in the process and also get a little introduction to what you might be looking at as part of the open house. And so maybe prompt some questions that you want to follow up on with some of the directors. You've done this before, but you've put a table tent on your table that tells you how to use the polling technology. So we're gonna play, this is like Jeopardy game show, right? So does everybody have a device? Usually have a QR code. Oh. Tech savvy, need a QR code. Now, for the people online, you can see the slide. I see heads nodding, great. All right, we're gonna take just a second. You can enter in the poll website. If you've already been there before, maybe it comes up for you. If you want to do the texting option, you can do that as well.
Shall note that it's got the 3 zeros and a 1 at the end. We have another one that doesn't have it.
And does it have to be capitalized or does it, is it? The polling bee does, I don't believe has to be. So polleyv.com/Centralina 0001.
Or we can go to the text bar
That's right.
and
Or-
text 22333. Is that right?
That's right. Does anyone need any assistance? We got a lot of people here. Can help.
Without embarrassing myself, yeah, somebody probably needs to walk around like a tutor. I'm just saying, some of us don't want to acknowledge it, but.
We need to put a whole few words somewhere.
Jason's saying I'm coming, Martha, so I'm coming. So I get on there, right?
Yeah, you can send it to the 22.
That's what I thought.
333.
That's what I thought.
If you want to do text that, and then the message you send is.
Well.
I don't know what I said. I have
Yeah,
to
you
put
say Centralina 00.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be stupid.
But the website is also.
We put your name for the poll president.
Oh, you're at the right
That's
spot.
just
You're at the
saying.
right
Well,
spot.
actually, you have it installed. If you want to go there, rather than just use your browser. And you're good. Once polling starts, it'll pop up.
Just hit click join. That's if you want to put your name there. You just hit join.
See, I think I would ask the question that nobody else would. Yes, everybody needs a little bit of help, okay?
Yes.
I mean, that's what you. I'll admit.
Several of you are at the question.
Now, my grandchild is doing.
Should be good.
Do I need to say, yeah, let's go ahead and move forward.
And
I think there are enough of you at the question.
Just under
We want to make sure we open it up for you.
It's all right. Okay, so there it is.
Yeah, it's gonna come up on screen. All right, so
Yeah.
now that we're set, like that's the hard part. Now it's actually answering the question, right? So let's start. The Centralina region is made up of 78 municipalities and counties. What percentage are Centralina members? So is it all 100% are Centralina members within the 9 counties? Is it 82%? Is it 76%? Or is it 60%?
You're there.
Folks are inputting their answers. Right now, we've got, oh, wow.
Yeah, you should hopefully put that.
Yes, sir. All right. Let's go ahead and click the next slide. Y'all are correct. Most people are correct. There's 82% of Centralina communities are actually members, for a total of 64. If we get to the consent agenda tonight, we actually have a new member. These numbers will shift and change. We'll see. And a lot of our communities are actually small towns. So, actually over 50% are under 5,000. So when you think about that, that's a lot of communities, which is one of the reasons we've started the Small Towns Thrive initiative. And we're working with communities, and you'll hear more about that at your next meeting. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got a few. All right. You click the next one. Okay. All right. Which of the following are major regional planning initiatives led by Centralina? Connect Our Future. Does that ring a bell? Hopefully. Connect Beyond. Prosperity for Greater Charlotte Economic Development Strategy. Regional Digital Inclusion Plan. Or all of the above. Which of the following are major regional planning initiatives that have been led by Centralina? And welcome to the new folks. There's a table tent. If you're gonna log in. We've got everybody not if you voted. Okay, seeing a lot of nods here in the room. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. And you are correct. All of the above. Yay! Yay! No prizes yet. We'll wait. Obviously, working together means a lot to this council, and so we do a lot of regional initiatives. One of the ones that you well, this we're on to the next slide. Let's just go down. We're going to turn over to Jason. We're going to go through some of our directors, and we'll do Jason, and then we'll do Christina, and then we'll do David, and then we'll do Linda, and then we'll come back. So we kind of need to go and move quickly on these. Right, Jason?
Thanks, Michelle. I think I've met a lot of you. I'm Jason Yeager. I'm planning director here at Centralina. So I think first off, we might have a polling question. Is that right? We've got a mixed zeros. You can see some of these other activities we've got going on. But first things first, you guess this is a bit of a giveaway that I'm.
You introduced yourself.
So which department helps us plan future growth and quality of life? You could just mess with me and not answer planning. See how we're doing, right?
Actually, that was a test if people were paying attention.
Right.
But let's read it away.
So we'll just give this, it looks like we've got 23 folks have voted or are online at least. 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Looks like a lot of us have it right. Community economic development probably does help us plan for future growth and quality of life as well. I would say they do. Given all the way we work together. And you'll hear from Christina next. So thank you very much. So really quickly, introduction of our team. You can see their pictures there on the right. Several folks are here with us this evening, and you'll get to meet them and talk with them at the open house as well. As Michelle said, we're gonna keep it moving, so I'll just give you the bullet list. So what are we about? We're about sustainable, inclusive communities, deliberate engagement, and of course, that regional collaboration across all the jurisdictional lines that we try to help so much with. We're also about fostering intentional growth strategies. It's gonna happen, growth's happening. How are we gonna do that and manage ourselves so that we have the best outcomes? Expanding mobility options, maintain the character of our communities, and then, of course, a vibrant and resilient future for all of us. So that's kind of a mashup of all the things we work on. These are a couple of examples of some of the things we do. So everything from convening meetings and so forth, to trainings for planning boards and your planners and staff, getting those AICB credits and so forth. So a wide array of activities. So with that, I'll turn things now over to Christine.
Hi, everybody. I don't want to tell you where I'm from, because then you're gonna miss the poem. Which department works to enhance economic prosperity and community resilience? Go to the next question. I think we're pretty much there. So I'm Christina Dennis from Community Economic Development Department. And as Jason said and Michelle alluded to, we really are interdepartmental. So if you're going to do anything with communities and development, you're going to do it together. You're going to need partnerships. I think it's the theme of the work that we do in the Community Economic Development Department. Please stop by afterwards. You'll get a chance to do an interactive exercise today and meet more of our community economic development team members. But we're really dedicated to fostering prosperity and resilience. And we do this through partnerships by advancing economic opportunity and strategies to help revitalize communities. So if there was ever a good day to say about community economic resilience, it was today. How many of you had FEMA alerts go off on your phones all of them today? Had what? FEMA alerts go off.
Oh,
Welcome to the New World Order. How many of you have had them go off regularly now? And you just look down at them and go, oh. That's community economic resilience. Being able to understand what that alert means to you and your community and the stakeholders you serve, keeping them safe and making sure that the public assets that taxpayers invest in are saved. That's community economic development. Emergency management deals with the fire trucks, the ambulance, the spills, the recovery and the removal of the branches in the storm. Community economic development makes sure before the storm strikes and when it happens, you have the resilience in place so that your stakeholders are protected, know where to go, and that the taxpayer investments that you created in your community are ready for the storm.
no pun intended.
Correct. That's the work that we do in community economic development. We also do it by investing in infrastructure, housing, downtown revitalization. We look at it through grant and management through through the US EDA, Economic Development Administration, through the Federal Emergency Management Association, through the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, and through all of the emergency managers who direct the counties that you reside in. We do digital inclusion strategies. The reason you do that on your phone was because you are part of the digital economy. You understood what that meant. You had a digital access to understand a FEMA alert event. Who are the people in your community who don't? That's what a digital inclusion plan tells you about. That's who you look for. The vulnerable, the disabled, the elderly, the disconnected, those that can't move when a storm comes or can't let you know that they need help through regular digital access and inclusion. That's what digital inclusion strategies are. And then we wrap all this up in with our Centralina Economic Development District, which serves the same counties and is a nonprofit. It's staffed by the Community Economic Development Department and serves the same 9 counties as the Centralina region. And that is a comprehensive economic development strategy that's updated every 5 years. And we are funded to support you all through that process. So thank you all and thanks for being safe and getting here today. And I'll bring up David from the Centralina. I won't tell you where he's from either.
Good evening, David Hollers. So your question now is, what department coordinates services for career seekers and employers in Anson, Cabarrus, Iredell, Lincoln, Roy, and Stanley, and Union counties? Angie can answer this
Okay, what was that?
one.
Don't shout it out. Okay. I'll tell Richard that.
Touchdown, 100%. Y'all got it. I'm David Hollers. I'm Director of Centralina Workforce Development Board. Real pleased to have one of my board members, Caraway from Ansonville, who represents Anson County and community-based organizations on Workforce Development Board, which is a 24-member private sector-led board that provides and coordinates workforce services in the said 7 counties I mentioned earlier. We operate 8 NC Works career centers throughout our region that provide services to career seekers, job seekers, individuals seeking training, and employers who are looking for people to go to work. We provide services to youth, to adults, to the individuals who've been laid off with plant closures, the 2 of them right now. And we also work extensively with special populations, veterans, individuals who are homeless, those with disabilities, and trying to get them back to the workforce. Our key thing is to provide a quality skilled workforce for our region, for our employers. That's what they're demanding. That's what we listen to. We're also doing employer surveying right now in coordination with North Carolina Department of Commerce as a big effort to make sure that is accomplished. So again, our services are available through our NC Works Career Centers. You see them in your communities. And you mentioned earlier about a QR code, Jennifer. If you stop by our table there, we've got a QR code you scan for the NC Centralina app, which you should have on your phone. So you can always find out what's happening with our board and access career fairs, hiring events that are happening in your community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Linda.
All right, well, I think this got really easy by the last person, right? Which department champions and supports the quality of life for our fastest growing age cohort in the region? Okay. It was Centralina Area Agency on Aging. She's moving me along. I think that's what that is. I'm Linda Miller, and I'm with the Centralina Area Agency on Aging. We have a unique perspective in that we have a combination of which we have pass-through funds of over 15 million, almost 60 million, that goes out to the 9 county regions, that we make sure that we audit and that is delivered, services that are delivered out to older adults as they were meant to be delivered and meet the standards. And then we also have in-house services. In direct services, we do advocacy and education and direct services, such as the long-term care ombudsman. We have evidence-based health and wellness classes that help us with falls prevention, maybe in your community, dealing with chronic conditions, as well as family caregiver support programs that can provide supplies and respite care, and also home improvement, housing and home improvement. That's new in the last couple of years, in which we help do home improvement to the homes of older adults where they're at risk potentially for safety issues. All right, Katie and I'll have a table back and we'll have a general brochure. Maybe you could stop by, pick that up, and learn more about what we do.
Thanks. Is that everybody? Good.
I don't know if I'm supposed to introduce, am I supposed to introduce Michelle?
I think next time we're gonna like switch up the people who stand up here.
Read a
That'd be,
different
that'd be
question.
real fun. So there's a department that does government affairs and member engagement. Guess who that might be? That's us. Okay. So we got a really small but mighty team that works with our member governments to ensure that they have the resources that they need to serve their constituents. We do that through training, going out and seeing people, we're bringing them resources, that kind of thing. So we visited most of you last year in our 55th anniversary roadshow. We'll hope to do a little bit more of that this coming year. Seem to go real well. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think this is the last one. Which of the following is not a Centralina department or affiliated organization? This is the trick question. And we'll go ahead and go with that. That's correct. We do not do public works. There was no dump trucks out here. We don't have a lineman. We don't do that.
But we have to know about all those things because our communities do those things. So water, sewer, wastewater, we can get you in touch with resources that you need. So I think with that, let's move on because we've got a lot to go over tonight. So just step on,
All right.
talk about housing.
All right, great, yeah. So, yeah, so the next thing, our agenda is the regional housing data presentation and dialogue. And I'm gonna call on Geraldine for start the presentation.
All right, good evening, everyone. Really appreciate everyone joining. The sun is starting to peek back out, so that's a good sign. The rest of our meeting. We wanted to use this Board of Delegates meeting in May to have a focused conversation, a focused dialogue on the topic of housing, which we know is coming up in many different contexts in your communities. We have a very diverse region with different needs, different perspectives on issues, but we all want to make sure that our constituents have, a safe and a decent place to live in your communities. So how you go about making policy and land use decisions to shape your community is very unique to the assets, opportunities, and challenges in your community. That being said, we've got a lot of shared challenges. And what we wanted to do tonight is first provide some data. Where are we on the topic of housing across the region when it comes to affordability and access? And then we want to have an interactive discussion with you around where your communities are on this topic and find potentially some opportunities for shared conversation. And we're going to do that since we have so many folks in the virtual room. We're going to have virtual breakouts. So a couple of our staff will go into Zoom rooms with you when we're done with our data presentation. And those folks in the room will stay here and a Centralina staff member will join your table to have that conversation. What we're working towards is helping you understand or helping us understand from your perspective, what might we need to work on and talk about together as a regional council when it comes to housing in the coming fiscal year. This meeting in May is typically when we engage you on our work plan development for the coming fiscal year, which is what we'll turn to at the end of the meeting. But this conversation on housing will help us shape that specific opportunity on this topic. So I'm going to go through a couple of slides related to data. Christina is going to help me out with that, and then we'll hear from more of her team when it comes to the interactive piece. We talk about housing affordability. There's a couple different ways affordability can happen. So market rate housing is obviously developed by the private sector, and the prices are determined by the market. So in some cases, that can be affordable. Some markets, it's easy for folks to gain access to housing with the incomes that they have available to them. And we call that naturally occurring affordable housing. So it's just based on the market. Housing can be affordable without any kind of subsidy. Then we also have publicly supported housing, and some communities call that affordable. Some of them call it workforce. Some of them call it attainable. Whatever label you want to put on it, this is the opportunity for the public sector to come in and provide some support. That could be buying land, it could be actually developing property, or it could be providing some sort of subsidy. And then the last category is the publicly operated and subsidized housing. So these are housing authority properties that are largely financed by the federal government, and the prices are fully or partially subsidized, and that's what creates the affordability. So just in terms of shared and common definitions, we're going to be primarily focusing on the two middle ones today. So housing that may be affordable because of the market in your community, and then the workforce and attainable housing production that's supported by local governments. So let's jump into the data a little bit, or a couple of headlines. So you'll see these on the slides that are going to come, but for the most part, we haven't really been keeping pace on housing production based on our population growth. And because of that, cost of housing is rising. So it's just simple economics, less supply, more demand, prices are going to go up. And we're seeing that on the both rental and home ownership side. You'll also see in just a moment that our households are cost burdened, which means people spend a lot of their income on housing. And the general rule of thumb is that you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. If you're spending more of that, then you're quote unquote cost burdened. Another trend that we're seeing is that the affordability challenge is no longer an issue just for Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. We're seeing it spread across the region as people move out and move further away from Charlotte and Mecklenburg, move into our suburbs and rural communities. It is becoming more challenging to find housing. So the other last factors are that other costs are going up with inflation. So we have some low wage job growth, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then other core costs like childcare and transportation are also really hurting folks' pocketbooks and making the affordability challenging even further. I'm just gonna pause because I saw some chats and I wanna make sure folks in the Zoom room can hear. So Mayor Pro Tem, are you seeing everything correctly? Can everyone hear on the Zoom?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Didn't want to leave anyone behind. So just a couple of quick points on supply and demand. So I think the key to focus in on here is during the pandemic, we weren't keeping up with housing production. Obviously, there wasn't a lot happening on the construction side. We've gotten behind. So we're 20,000 units behind since the pandemic. So that's really creating some pressure on our housing prices, which is why you're seeing a lot of the increases in home values and rental costs in your communities. We were doing pretty well up until the pandemic. So the blue bars, you can actually in 2017 to 2018 and 2019, you can see that red bar growing faster than the blue bars. We were producing more housing and that was helping to keep prices down. So just on the cost side, I mean, you all know this, especially on the home ownership side, just incredible increases in home prices across the region. No county has not seen an increase. And when you look at the municipalities, the more expensive housing cost markets are outside of Mecklenburg and Charlotte. So communities in Union and Cabarrus County are actually seeing the highest housing price increase on the home ownership side. On the rental side, so on the rental side, you can see that what's called fair market rent. So this is what, an average person would pay for a 2-bedroom apartment in our region. Again, increases across the region over the last 5 years. Anson County, I don't know what's happening in Anson County, but a lot of increases, Commissioner Wimbird, in rental housing in your county. But it's not necessarily an urban or rural pattern. It's just everywhere we're seeing prices increase. This also points to our cost burden. So that 30% of your income spent on housing, almost 230,000 households in our region are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So it is a lot, and it's in every county. It doesn't matter urban or rural. We're seeing that cost burden increasing.
Julie,
Yes.
before you move from that one.
Yep.
So explain to me, again, I don't have my glasses, because it was pouring down rain, I didn't bring them in. I wanted to be able to walk to see. Is that the increase? Are those the increases?
Yeah.
So for instance, I see Mecklenburg is at 32%.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is the percent of the population in that county.
Okay, I was trying to figure out what that was showing. So that is the percentage of the population who are burdened.
Yeah, so 20 in Stanley County, 23% of your population is spending more than 30% on housing.
So
What does this include? Does this include just mortgage or?
It can mortgage on the home ownership side, property taxes, on the rental side, yes, total costs. And this is probably a great moment to remind you guys in your packets Under this agenda item, you will have for each of your counties a little fact sheet, which is where some of this data is coming from. I think the full packets are at the end of that table, and if you didn't get one, maybe staff can kind of pass some of those out. Fact sheet from the North Carolina Housing Coalition, which has some of these facts by county. So if you need a full packet, raise your hand and our staff will share one.
I picked up a full agenda, but up there, but I don't know that it's in there. I don't see it in that full agenda.
The full packet, Marissa?
I guess it was a copy or a.
Yeah, they didn't have.
That's good we found it out.
Okay, well, they were in the PDF version. For those of you who are on your Zoom call, those resources are in the published version of the agenda packet, and we'll find some copies before the interactive session. So just kind of thinking about income again, if you think about wages in the region, this is an interesting slide. This tells you the income needed to afford fair market rent by county. So in Union County, you need $62,000 a year to afford a 2-bedroom fair market rent in that county. And you can see again some of the just general average teacher salaries, average firefighter salaries, childcare workers. So again, depending upon where you are in the region and what your incomes are, it might be challenging for some of your staff in your communities to be able to afford the right kind of housing. And then the last slide also related to job growth, and this is really a macro point that points to our economic development strategy as a region. This graph this table shows our top 5 growing occupations in the region, and as of 2013, you can see the top 2, management and business, financial operations, earning a great salary, right? Can definitely afford fair market rent. The last 3, where we're seeing, again, incredible job growth, those occupation classes would not be able to find and afford fair market rents in 8 out of our 9 counties. So we're growing a lot of jobs that are kind of in the low wage, which is something that we need to be mindful of. We need jobs at all, range of the income spectrum. But this is a lot of job growth and a lot of low wage job growth compared to our market. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christina to talk about some of the other components that are influencing housing affordability. And then we're going to get to our conversation.
Thank you, Geraldine. Thanks, everybody. So what we're talking about here is all of the externalities that you need to live and raise a family and get to work or healthcare. So it's in addition to housing and transportation, there's childcare, health, food. So your core housing costs are really more than just the cost of housing or your car or your utilities. It's everything that you burden in life. And when we start adding those on, people have to make decisions about what works for them in order for them to be part of, the economy, part of being a family, part of going to work, part of being part of a community. And that they have to grapple with, can I live near where I work? And that would reduce my transportation costs. But if I can't afford to live in the town that I work in, I've now got to drive outside of that town. That means my car insurance goes up if I have a car, or maybe now I need 2 cars so that my family can have access to childcare. So what you'll see is that in addition to that housing burden, 48% goes up. So we're even beyond the 30, adding on transportation brings us up to many more cost burden households. And in Mecklenburg, we can see that housing is more expensive than transportation in an urban community, but we can see that as you go out to Stanley County, transportation trumps the housing cost. And in Union, Stanley, Rowan, and Anson, transportation, as well as Gaston and Lincoln, transportation is more expensive than housing. In a nutshell, people are not living where they work.
They can't.
They can't. So there's a balancing act to happen there about living where you work. The next thing that could come up to play is childcare. And these are incredibly rising costs. And we're about to hit the childcare cliff when the ARPA funds drop off on June 30th. All those subsidized childcares have gone away. So we now see that the average daycare is in the region is 9,915 or 14% of household income. So now you've got your house, you got your car, you got childcare, you got food, you got healthcare. You're even more cost burdened. And in Cabarrus, the fair market rent is 18,600. Infant daycare is 13,000. In Rowan, 13,400 for fair market rent. Infant daycare is $9,600. This is on families who are young, early in their earning career, not earning as much money as they earn it later in their career, and trying to grapple with childcare costs, can't live near where they work, and housing that they can't afford. So it's one of the top crises in our education and our regional economy is childcare. If you're not talking about your community, think about what you can do and talk about it, because it really is going to affect your community and it's affecting your families. And I guess every one of you have had your own personal childcare concerns. No one gets unscathed. Mark Sue.
And I think the other issue is not, and those of us in here don't see it day to day because we're out of that age group, but just childcare facilities. So it used to be, and if you don't know what's going on, I'll just challenge each of you. If you don't know what's going on with your own partnership for children, okay, or Smart Start, you as an elected official need to go snoop around, and not snoop in a negative tone, but you need to find out what they're doing. We have communities that used to be childcare facility poor, in that there were a lot of them in communities that don't have them any longer. I mean, and that is sad. That is so sad. And there's a lot of factors because of that, okay?
Wages is factor.
Wages.
Childcare wages are
That's
below.
exactly
They can work at McDonald's and make more money than childcare and have less liability on them.
So that's the issue, is not just, I mean, the cost, it's just the availability of it.
It's cascading events.
That's exactly right.
So if you want to learn more about childcare, please stop by the Community Economic Development table. We did a childcare forum on February 15th. We have a webpage that's available with all resources. And we're going to continue to advocate for childcare as an economic mobility for our region. So supply is critical for housing, the affordability, the mix of housing. There are fewer natural areas of naturally occurring affordable housing. Most of those were communities that, due to rising market prices and demand, they may be elderly, or those homes may be in need of rehabilitation in order to be brought up to market. They may not be able to stay in those homes. Those homes could be at risk for being sold and flipped, and then changing the community culture and fabric and neighborhoods. With inflation, the household needs, we don't have a holistic solution. That we're really going to need to come at this with many, many partnerships and components. It's not a one size fits all. And we need public-private partnerships. That's the key for any housing strategy. You must have those partnerships. You will not solve it alone by government. Private will not solve it alone. And you need those public, private, and nonprofit partnerships. And now we come to the interactive housing strategy session. So Susie, come on up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susie Kira with the Community Economic Development Team. And we prepared interactive exercise for you all. It's a very high level, and I'm going to walk you through we call it Affordable Housing Strategic Focus Diagram. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to share a couple of interesting data that was published in the North Carolina Office of State and Budget Management article. Did you know that North Carolina will become the 7th most populated state by 2030. So you know that by 2030, the population will reach 11.7 million. Right now, we are around 10.7. And by 2050, it goes up to 14.2 million.
Now, that is not from natural, most of that is not from natural, it's people
Coming-
moving to the
that's
south.
right. Most of them
Because
will
the
come from
birth rates are
outside of
going
the state.
down.
Absolutely, yes. Another interesting data I found is that as the baby boom generation ages into retirement, by the end of this decade, 1 of every 5 North Carolinian will be over the age of 65. By the early part of the next decade, there will be more older individuals over the age of 65 than children between the ages of 0 to 17. So just keep that in mind as part of the exercise. So as you all know, finding solutions is complex, exhausting, and overwhelming, right? Before we jump into this exercise, we have 2 polls that we wanted to share with you, and if you could vote. The first one is, does your community experience challenges in addressing affordable housing strategies and solutions? Yes, someone. Next question. Oh, Sibylle, go. Do you do the results? Is there,
Oops, sorry.
is the availability of affordable workforce housing priority in your community? Next slide. Christine is going to touch base on homelessness, just very, very high level, and then we'll move into our interactive session.
Thank you, Susie. So homelessness is what happens when housing strategies fail. Pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for homelessness. There's the mental health component, there's the affordability component, there's the justice component. There are many, many components to homelessness. Partnerships is how you solve homelessness. Centralina doesn't do homelessness. We can help you connect with those that do in the state, and I'll tell you who they are, and you've got them in your handout tonight about the continuum of care. There are local partners that are in the nonprofit and government world and private sector as well that do shelters, wraparound programs, and use HUD funds to implement. There's also regional partners. This is key for all of you. Tonight, you will learn who your continuum of care partner is if you don't already know. And they have a board. They do a homeless management system. They have collaborative applications. They are a referral system. All of that is funded through HUD, the Housing and Urban Development component. So homelessness is when housing strategies fail, because even those that are in the mental health system or justice system or other systems could have a referral to a place to go to on their way out if there was availability. Next slide. Continuum of care, COCs, City of Charlotte now, continuum of care. So the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness, it has this data. We have put the contacts for you in the handout that we gave you tonight. So Charlotte and Mecklenburg have their own. Gastonia, Cleveland, Gaston, Lincoln have their own. The rest of you are in the balance of the state. And the balance of the state has regions. So Iredale's in Region 4, Union, Cabarrus, Stanley, and Rowan are in Region 5. Excuse me, Anson is in Region 7. The state of North Carolina receives from HUD funds to do continuum of care for your communities at the county level. If you are not calling upon that or aware of that, it is an opportunity for you to do so. Please stop by the Community Economic Development table to learn about how we might connect you with the right person to contact with us, the local government, and to the North Carolina Continuum of Care representative. Next slide, I think. You.
The last two Poly questions is addressing homelessness a priority for your community. Would you like more information on potential partnerships or collaborative relationships to address homelessness in your community? All right, here's the fun part. So before we start the interactive session, I just wanted to walk you through a diagram.
Here, yeah, you do it.
Yes. So we have the horizontal. One end of it is wealth building, ownership. The other end of it is increasing the supply of affordable housing. The vertical diagram is preservation, existing structures on the bottom, new units. So you have working with existing units and building units. All right, let's look at some examples because you can use that at the interactive session. The first quadrant is wealth building by preserving existing structures is your weatherization program, critical home repair, emergency home repair, foreclosure prevention. The next one is we have affordable rentals. You can think of, for example, there is a church in your community that's been vacant, and someone buys it and turns it into affordable rental units. Or you have an expiring LIHTC or low income housing tax credit property that you have a chance to purchase and keep that affordable housing rent going. Or right of first refusal properties. The bottom is where we build new. Ownership, rental. So the third quadrant is, for example, credit repair programs, first-time homebuyer programs, that kind of activity. And the last one is the new affordable rental units, is those low-income housing tax credit or market rate units with affordable units included within them. So you have the four quadrant, you have the examples for our exercise. So everyone has a diagram template showing the four quadrants in front of them. If you could, let's see, we have.
Does anyone not have one?
Two over here, we need two more. She's.
There you go.
So for those of you in the Zoom room, we have three Centralina staff, Kelly Weston, Megan Upchurch, and Kate Berzinger are gonna be in the Zoom room. So in just a moment, we're gonna whisk you into those rooms for your conversation. And then in the room, all of our delegates are at 4 tables, so you'll be joined by Susie, Christina, Joe, James, and Anna Lou, and you're gonna have your own conversation. And their task, Susie, is?
Yes, so it's very high level. You have to take a quadrant or two because we can solve this affordable housing crisis by taking all 4 quadrants, right? We have to go baby steps. Which quadrant of strategic action reflect the needs and concerns of your community? You will be working together to discuss it, and so one will have to report out. What are single patterns that you all experience? And any ideas that you've been thinking about or trying to implement?
Okay, so the rooms are open, so if you're on Zoom, you're gonna see a little button that pops up on your screen that says join a breakout. You can click that and you'll head into your room. And if you have any technical issues, just feel free to chat me in the chat. And if our staff could join a table, and it'll take about 10 minutes to have this conversation.
So is this, are we doing one per table or is it?
You're doing your own at your own table.
But is it one strategy per table? Or is it like we've got five municipalities represented?
It should be what you can do it for your own municipality, what you see it as, and then we'll report out as what the overlying theme is from the table. So you and James are gonna come together.
I'm just,
All right. You're good. I'm fine, yeah.
Yeah.
So what, they had kind of mentioned that, but as far as any challenges or what are you doing in your community, it's great that we're all from different communities that we can kind of continue and talk about what's going on. As far as workforce housing, are you doing that? Do you want to do that? You want to just, you just want to share, right?
So we're taking our long time winners and I mean, self-creating, you know, they're creating at least 575.
4 things that out there now, like you're what it is, why it is, why it's so bad, where it is and what it
But the thing is that, again, the word affordable.
Everyone that does that.
What number caps affordable?
There's education.
I'm not sure. It's one of those situations because that's all I've seen in my family.
Yeah.
It's okay to do.
Yeah.
But it is, you know,
That's the conversation.
sometimes you know, we're basing this on, you know, part of that.
Everyone's coming out of the session. We're gonna move right along. So Geraldine's gonna help transition.
So I hope everyone had some interesting conversations in their small group. Obviously, there's a huge spectrum of perspectives on this issue, but we hope that the data and the conversation with peers was interesting to you. And as we go into the next piece of the meeting today, which is our open house, there'll be the opportunity to talk more with our staff. We're here as a resource, and I think I just wanted to close up real quick with my magic wand moves. Okay, oh, whoop, went too far. Just a really quick note that two examples of how we've helped some of our members on the housing issue in the last this past fiscal year. We worked with the city of Statesville to do a day-long community education and stakeholder event called Statesville Thrives, based on how they wanted to talk about housing issues in their community. And then in the town of Belmont, our planning department worked with the planning board and the town council to look at their land development codes and think about some updates in a more technical nature to think about how different types of affordable or attainable housing development could be compatible in their community. So here are just a couple examples of how we can help your community as you work through some of these issues. For that, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, so next we're gonna move over, but before we do that, we are good with quorum. So we're gonna go back to the consent agenda. And so what we have on there today is approval of the February 21st Board of Delegates meeting minutes. Also, for you this evening is a request for Centralina membership by the town of Peachland over in Hampton County. Isn't that awesome? So I'll note that the town passed the resolution on Monday evening with the membership request for the organization bylaws, the Board of Delegates, not the city members to the council. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved.
So moved. David
All in
Shaw,
favor?
Stallings.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. So, and on behalf of the board, we're excited to welcome Peach. All right, so before we move on to the open house, a few little comments. Are there any comments from Centralina staff or any delegate? All right, so we have a few upcoming events that you can hopefully see on screen coming up. So on May 9th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we have an assistive technology training and demonstration session as in-person workshop offered in partnership with North Carolina Assistive Technology Program on May 9th, 10 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. I don't think it's gonna be that long. It's probably gonna be 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Don't think it's all. All right. So, also on May 9th is the small town peer-to-peer personnel and operation policies. Participating small town governments will have the opportunity to engage in collaborative discussions. Then on May 14th, from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Is going to be the next Centralina Workforce Development Board meeting. And then May 30th, from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., there'll be a special webinar training offered by the North Carolina Association of Regional Council of Governments and the NC Impact Initiative at the UNC School of Government. It's called a refresher on economic development incentives. Stop by the tonight. Stop by the community economic development table for more information on the phone. And then lastly, on August 14th at 5 p.m., we'll meet here again at our Centralina office for our next Board of Delegates meeting. All right, and thank you all. Is there anything else?
Yes, instructions.
All right.
One quick note on the August board meeting, the focus topic is going to be on water infrastructure, water quality, stormwater. So that will be kind of our in-person dialogue. So hopefully the weather will cooperate and we can have more folks in person. For those of us in the room tonight, we are going to adjourn to our Centralina open house. We've got tons of staff in the room today and back in our office. I wanted to do a special introduction to our newest member of Centralina. Lynn Hare has joined us as our assistant planning director. So she's joining our team. We're really excited to have her. And then we have our aging folks, we have workforce development team members, planning, CED, et cetera, our game department. So you are invited to come back into our office, meet with our department staff. The input tonight is helping us understand what types of services and supports and programs will be value added for you in the coming fiscal year. So each department has a couple of quick engagement questions for you to give us feedback. And then when you complete your task, dinner is available either to take with you or to stay and connect in this room.